look at what you got right now and figure out a way to make it happen. Start right here, right now with what you got and go from there. Figure out a way to make it. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today, we're going to talk about a very important principle that not many, I haven't heard anyone use this principle when it comes to reselling. Now, this principle, strategy, whatever you want to call it, has been brought up in other areas of business, so this isn't nothing new. I'm not bringing forth any new information in that sense. However, when I look at the reselling landscape and I watch people's videos and look at comments in different videos, and when I see comments in Facebook groups and things of that nature, the one thing that jumps out to me is that people are focused on the wrong things, okay? Or maybe not necessarily the wrong thing. Sometimes they're focused on the wrong thing at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is the most important thing when it comes to running any type of business, right? We're buying and selling things, okay? So that in its technical nature as a business, first and most important thing is to have a foundation. This is with anything in life. Foundation. How strong is your foundation? How strong is the foundation of your reselling business? Your knowledge foundation. What is that built upon? Your business foundation. What is that built upon? I think, and so this is what I mean by people focus on the wrong thing at the wrong time, because they're so focused on the bolos and they're so focused on, or what is this seller selling, or what is this person selling, and what can I do? But they don't understand the basics, number one. And number two, because they don't understand the basics, they have no foundation. And so when adversity comes and when problems come and when issues arise, they have nothing to stand on. And so they crumble fairly easily. And so today, what I want to talk to you guys about is what is going to help you not become like those resellers, and that's having a foundation. And the example I want to use today is from a book. It's actually from two books that I love, but the second book took it from the first book. And that's to talk about the deaf ground strategy. Okay. Now, this principle comes from The Art of War by Sun Tzu, but also Robert Greene used it in his book, The 33 Strategies of War. And he actually had a whole example and everything like that, which I'm not going to go into. However, if you want to go look at those things and read through those books, I think you'll find a whole lot of good and useful information, okay? Now, as far as the deaf ground strategy, Sun Tzu, the way he presented it, and I'm just going to give you the gist of it, the summarization, is basically when you take your soldiers and you pretty much put their backs up against the wall. Let's just say that. There's no other options, okay? There's no option for retreat. There's no option to go any other way. It's either fight or die, right? There's only one way to go, and that's forward. And not only is the only option to fight, but the only option is to fight with everything you got. See, you want to know the thing is sometimes because people have options, they're not as creative. One thing about it, when you're desperate, when you have no other options, you can come up with some stuff, man. You can come up with some stuff. There's some ideas that'll pop up and not only that, but your risk tolerance becomes a little bit higher because you don't have anything to fall back on. Now, please don't mistake me. I am not saying go out and be foolish. I'm not saying if you got a job, a really good job, making $100K a year, just to drop your job to sell on eBay. It's not what I'm saying at all. So before we even get further into this, for all of you who may leave these comments related to that line of thinking, I'm not saying that. Do not be foolish. But also, what I am saying is that you have to do this like it is the only option. If this is what you want to do, if reselling is what you want to do for the moment, for the long term, whatever it may be, if reselling is what you want to do, then you have to give it your all, and it has to be your only option. If people don't focus, and that's the problem. And so, in the art of war, Sun Tzu teaches that sometimes if you put your troops on death's ground, then you will. That's when you can get the most out of them. A lot of times, even if it's a contrived death ground. And so essentially it creates a sense of urgency and even a sense of desperation that forces you to act, and it forces you to be consistent and focus even more. And now in business, death ground strategy can serve as a metaphor for achieving success when failure is not an option. I think a lot of people fail because they have options, or they have the perception of options. And in a lot of cases, the reason that some people are doing reselling is because either they don't like the options that they have and they want to get out of it, or because they're kind of comfortable, or because of fear. They want to get away from the situation, but they're afraid to let it go. And so the thing that they think provides them security is actually holding them back. And so the deaf ground strategy can actually highlight the power of urgency, resourcefulness, and laser focused execution. Okay. To be able to do something that even you may not have thought that you were able to do, to accomplish even what you may have thought, or what others may have thought that you weren't able to accomplish, because you put yourself in a situation, or you created the conditions for you not to have options that typically may hold you back. Again, please don't take this to the extreme and just go quit your job today and you got kids to feed, because that's not what I'm saying. Okay. This can come in a lot of shapes, forms, or fashions. All right. There's a lot of things that we do in our life that give us a false sense of security, or that hold us back, or that make us comfortable, and cause us to not give full effort. Heck, it might not even be an outside situation or condition. It could be mental. Okay, a lot of us got bad habits, bad mental habits, and things like that that keep us from going as far as we can, that keep us from reaching our full potential. And so in this video, I'm going to point out 5 different ways that using deaf ground strategy mentality will help you not only get further in your reselling business, but in life in general. Okay. And again, I want to point out that this isn't just meant to be about your outside conditions, maybe your job or whatever. It could be, that could be part of it. But this goes deeper than that. Okay. This transcends that. This goes all the way into your mental state. Okay. Your mind state. A lot of us have weeds growing in our mind that we try to get through, and it just hold us back. And so we can't really grow and flourish the way that we were meant to grow and flourish, because those things are in the way. And again, it usually comes down to bad habits, a lack of discipline, and even laziness. Okay. And so the 5 things that we're going to talk about as it relates to the deaf ground strategy in our reselling businesses is this. Number 1, commitment to success. Number 2, adaptability and resourcefulness. Number 3, risk management. Number 4, persistence and resilience. And number 5, laser focused execution. Okay, so now let's get right into it. We're going to start off with commitment to success. When it comes to reselling, we all know that reselling is pretty competitive, right? It doesn't really matter what category you're in. There's going to be some sort of competition, right? And what you may have thought was easy when you first got into it, it doesn't really take that long for you to realize it's not as easy as you thought it would be. And there are a lot of people out there who want to take food off of your table, right? And so the markets fluctuate. There's outside factors that come into play, the economy. Things happen. Stuff happens. Some things are within your control. Some things are out of your control. But irregardless, or regardless of what that may be, the number one aspect of having a successful reselling business in any form, part-time or full-time, is being committed. And so embracing the deaf ground strategy as it relates to reselling means committing fully, wholeheartedly to your reselling business and solving for any eventual problems or anything that comes up as you go along down that journey. As you go along down that journey, knowing retreat isn't an option, giving up isn't an option. Just because eBay comes out with no new fee with some new fees doesn't mean you're going to quit. Just because Amazon comes out with some new fees doesn't mean you're going to quit. All of that is part of it. Some of it you'll see coming because you know fees increase. Some of it you won't. Some new policy, things you may have been able to sell, you can't sell. Things you were ungated in, you get gated. Whatever the case may be, you know that no matter what happens, I'm going to continue, even if that means at some point I may have to rethink my whole business model and adjust and adapt it to my current condition. And see, look, the reason this is really important is that when you have that mentality, that's the mentality that is going to allow you to open up those creative juices and allow ideas to start flowing to help you solve for whatever problem that you're faced with at that current moment in time. Whether it is you have to innovate, adapt, whatever it may be, adjust. It could just be something you got to do for a moment. It could be something you got to do for the duration of your reselling career, of your reselling journey. It doesn't matter. If the only thing you ever see is problems, if the only thing you ever have are complaints, then it is going to be very unlikely that you can ever come up with a solution. It's going to be very unlikely that you can ever innovate in any meaningful way, adapt in any real way, or overcome in any lasting way. Okay. The most important thing is that you start off with commitment. Deaf ground strategy is what you use to understand that I need to be committed. There's nothing that I'm going back to. This is the path that I chose. And so this is the path that I'm going to see through. There's no other way to think about it. Okay. Now, number two, though, after you already settled in and now you're committed, that will help you grow and help build that adaptability, that resourcefulness. Okay. It's hard to see these things are comparable to like muscles. Not some people are better than others at adapting. Some people are better than others at being a little more pliable, a little more flexible. You know, some of us are a little more rigid than others. Some of us are a little more resourceful. But also, these are things that we can learn too. These are things that if we, especially if we're networking with others, sometimes we just need some stimulation, right? Sometimes you get inside your head and it's hard to get out of it. And so that's when you need a network. You need some friends. You need somebody that you can talk to, especially a reseller or somebody who's doing the same things that you do or have done that you can bounce ideas off of and maybe get a fresh perspective. And so adaptability and resourcefulness. And so what that means is when you're operating on a deaf ground strategy as a reseller, you are forced to become incredibly adaptable and resourceful. And we all been doing this long enough to know that that is true, right? At some point, you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to be resourceful. You're going to have to figure out new ways to get inventory. You're going to have to figure out new ways to sell things, right? You may have to figure out different platforms, whatever it may be. It's whatever the way you start will not be the way you finish. It will not be. I can guarantee you this. If you think that the way you start will be the way you finish and that's all you see, you'll lose. You'll go out of business and this won't last long. This won't be for you. I can guarantee you that. And so just like in warfare, sometimes you have to learn to make the most of the things that you have available to you at that moment until something else comes along. Sometimes you don't have the time to go looking for something else. Sometimes you don't have the resources to even go out and get the equipment or whatever it is that you may need. You might just have to use whatever it is that you got. And the person that can do that the best is the person that's going to survive and have longevity. That's the person who's going to be most successful. Okay. And that's what I mean by adaptability and resourcefulness. Being able to get the most out of what's available to you right now at this moment. Okay. And you're not going to be able to do that if all you see is the negative, if all you do is complain. Not only that, you have to be able to pivot quickly when circumstances dictate that you need to pivot, when circumstances dictate that you need to change. You can't just be like, oh, what's going on over here? And what are they saying in this group? You have to have a feel. Like if you know your business, you know when something needs to change. You don't need to ask people a lot of times. Not saying you don't need to get advice, but a lot of times you know what needs to change and when it needs to change. And if it's something that has to do with you, maybe you got to get up earlier. Maybe you got to work longer. Maybe you have to focus more. Maybe you need to cut your expenses. A little more discipline, a little more consistency. It's up to you to figure out what that is. It's up to you to figure out what that is. But you might have to find a way to create a sense of urgency for yourself. Make it matter more. Make it count more. Don't say, oh, I can't get started because I don't have this, that, and the other. Don't say, oh, I can't get ahead because this, that, and this is happening. Take what you got right now, what's right in front of you, and figure out ways to get the most out of it, man. Figure out ways to get every single drop of potential. And of course, that could mean adjusting your offers, dropping prices, finding different platforms, selling a whole different type of inventory. That could come in many shapes, forms, or fashions. But you have to be willing to go all the way, to do whatever it takes. You have to have a do whatever it takes mentality. That's what death ground is. I'm going to do what it takes because there's no other option. I'm committed to this course of action. And we know, because there are enough examples around us that this isn't a failing proposition. Reselling in its broad sense is not a failing proposition. There's a 1,001 ways to do this business and survive and be prosperous and be successful. And the ones that don't succeed, in my opinion, are the ones who lack in these areas that we are speaking about today. All right, now let's go to the third aspect of this death ground strategy, which is risk management. Now, everybody has their own risk tolerance, right? Some people are willing to take more risk than others. Some people are a little more risk averse, right? Me personally, I'm somewhat as a risk taker, but however, I would say that I take some calculated risks and chances, but I'm not afraid to take a chance if it makes sense, right? I don't advise anybody to take a chance or a risk that isn't at least well thought out. The chances don't always have to be in your favor. I think a lot of times the most success comes when you take a chance on something that actually is not in your favor. Sometimes, right? Sometimes when people, even yourself, think like, man, I don't think this is going to work out. A lot of times that's when you get the best results. But as a business owner, it's up to you to manage the risk in your business. And so in reselling, it don't matter, man, what it is. If it's the platforms, if it's the rules on the platforms, the Veros, you hear a lot of people when it comes to Amazon. Oh, I don't want to sell on Amazon. Amazon is too strict, and all you get gated and everything, and it's hard, and this and that and the other. And okay, you're living in all these possibilities. They're not even positive possibilities. They're negative possibilities. The what ifs. What if I can't get in this? What if that gets suspended for that? What if this happens? All things that have not happened, but you already put up roadblocks. You put those roadblocks up. Amazon didn't put them up because there's no guarantee that any of those things will happen. And even if they do, there's no guarantee that you won't be able to navigate through them and come out, just fine. I think almost anybody who sells on Amazon at some point is going to have to deal with some sort of claim for something. Okay. I've dealt with it and millions of other sellers, right? So for some sellers it work out, for some it don't. But you know what the difference is? It don't stop people from trying. It don't stop thousands of people from trying every single day. Millions of people from trying every single day. You know why? Because there's potential there. There's a lot of possible success that could be had. So why would I let what could happen but hasn't happened stop me from trying? A lot of y'all allow what could happen but hasn't happened stop y'all from trying. And part of the reason is because you have other stuff that you can look to. So you really ain't really committed to this. You ain't committed to it. But then you complain about it like you committed to it. Here's the problem sometimes. People complain about this reselling thing and complain about the issues on the platforms like they've been so committed and put so much effort and it didn't work. Like they did 150% and Everything just went totally wrong. Like there was just no way. And we all know that's not reality. That's not true. But people complain like they did. And they really haven't reached the full potential of their resourcefulness. They really haven't tried to figure out the issues or the problem or the answer to the issues that their specific type of reselling business face. Theirs. They try to compare theirs to others in other situations. None of us know the full facts of anybody's situation online. That's why I take it all with a grain of salt. And so what the Deaf Ground strategy does in this specific aspect when it comes to risk management is that it encourages calculated risk taking and effective risk management. Calculated risk taking and effective risk management. Okay? You cannot be afraid to take a chance, man. You can't. Look, I'm talking to somebody right now. You know what you need to do to help your business, but you're afraid to do it. And if you don't do it, your business is going to die. Your hopes are going to die. Your dreams are going to die. And it may not be reselling that's your hopes and dreams, but what I'm saying is if you quit this, this is going to follow you through just about everything else in your life. Calculated risk taking, effective risk management. How can I mitigate my risk, but not allow the potential risk to stop me from taking the chance? For instance, if you do want to leave your job, you mitigate the risk of you losing everything by having savings, having enough to take care of your bills for 6 months to a year. You do things like that to mitigate the risk. Is it a risk still? Yes, because there's no guarantee that you will be able to do what it is you're trying to do at the level that you need to do it. There's no guarantee because anything can happen. I'm not saying that if you do any of this stuff that there's just a guarantee. However, the likelihood of you succeeding when you have a never say die mentality is a lot higher than if you have a what if and he said that, she said this, and it's just too much. If you got that mentality, okay, and so be okay. You gotta be okay with certain type of risk, and maybe you take it step by step, little by little, and then as you build your confidence, you'll be willing to take more risks. I always make sure I have a reserve. So I got a certain amount of money in a certain area for just in case. Just in case, because you never know. And in that case, yeah, if something bad happens, it would suck, but I'm not done. And so it's not going to stop me from taking another chance. Because, I mean, when you look across the board at any business, you listen to stories of any entrepreneur. And I think the one thread that you will find woven throughout all those stories is that at some point, between that entrepreneur starting and becoming successful, there was a I don't want to say it like this, but a come to God type of moment where a do or die. You had to take this chance, and they had to put it all on the line. There was a point in time where they could have lost their shirt. There was a point in time where they didn't know exactly what could happen. It could go either way, but they weren't afraid to take the chance because they knew if it did go their way, that would change their lives forever. And for a lot of us, our business, it's not that real. And if that's what you want, that level where I ain't trying to be all that, but that's okay. But if you want more, it's going to take that type of mentality. It's going to take that type of mentality to get further. And even if it ain't reselling, it could be anything else that you want to do. Maybe reselling is just a springboard for you to get into something else. But there's going to come a time. There's going to come a time when you're going to question everything, where the circumstances or even the people or both are going to all be against you. And you're going to have to decide whether or not you're going to continue. And if the only reason you don't continue is because of what those things are telling you, that's probably not the best reason. I mean, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. But me, myself, when I'm faced with those type of situations, I always look at the situations for what they are, apart from what people are saying or what's happening. I look at it for what it is. Okay, what's going on? What's the potential solutions? What's happening? Okay, I don't care about what nobody's saying at that time. Then when I figure out what's going on and what's happening and what's the solutions, then I figure out whether or not it's worth it. And if so, what do I have to do? And then sometimes, man, you got to walk alone. Sometimes you might not have one person who agrees with your decision, who agrees with your course of action. Sometimes it's just you and you betting on yourself. And so do you got the guts to just go with it and bet on yourself and say, I'm on deaf ground right now and I ain't got no other option. This is it. I ain't even got my spouse don't even got my back. You know? My best friend don't even got my back. What am I going to do? Well, if you really want it, then you got to go for it. All right, so that's going to take us now to number 4, persistence and resilience. Nothing in life will be had without persistence and resilience. And you can throw consistency in there as well. Because consistency is all part of it, right? If you're persistent and you're resilient, that automatically leads to being consistent. And so in the face of any challenge, the deaf ground strategy requires you to be persistent and resilient. To get out of that jam, to get out of that situation, to move forward, to break through, to get to where it is you're trying to go, it's going to take both. It's going to take both. You can't try this for 30 days and be like, oh, it didn't work. You can't try this for 90 days and be like, oh, man, it didn't work. Heck, sometimes you can do it for a year and not get that far. The race ain't always to the swift, man, but to those who endure. To those who got a couple cuts and a couple bruises. To those who got the sweat and they got to wipe the sweat. Got the dirty faces, got dirt under their nails. You know, some people just want to sit up under the tree in the shade all day with their little lemonade, right? They don't want to get hot. They don't want the sweat, the shirt sticking to their body because they sweating so much. But then some of us is like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. I'm going to get sweaty. I'm going to get gritty. I'm going to get dirty because I already know what it's going to lead to. And so persistence and resilience in the face of your challenge is what you're going to need. And that's what the deaf ground strategy breeds, the mental aspect of it. The mental aspect of it. I ain't even talking about necessarily circumstances. I'm talking about what it is inside of you that's stopping you. What it is inside of you that you keep falling back on is keeping you from getting further ahead, where you need to be, where you want to be. Where you know everybody, you know what? I think everybody in their spirit knows where they should be at in life and they know why they're not there. If you're not there, of course. If you're not already there, everybody has that in them. Like, man, I should be further. I should be doing this. And if you ain't, you know why not. And I guarantee you, almost 99.9% of the time, it's things that you have always had control over. You didn't either want to put in the effort, the time. You cared too much about what people thought, what people said. You cared about all these other things that didn't even really matter. Okay? And this is what I mean, the other aspect of the deaf ground strategy. All these things, you never created that sense of urgency and desperation for yourself because you kept leaning on all this other stuff that all it did was hold you back. And if you do that in reselling, it's only going to hold you back. You keep listening to these negative channels. You keep listening to them talk about all these problems on the platforms and all this stuff that's wrong with eBay and all of this and all of that and the customers and the scammers and all that negative stuff. Those weeds are going to sit and the seeds are going to be planted and take root. And it's going to cause you to get stuck. It's going to cause you to get stuck. Cut that stuff out. Cut that stuff off. As a reseller, you bound to incur run into some obstacles, slow sales, zeros, inventory issues, whatever it may be. You might have a string of returns, man. It hurts you. Here's something that's inevitable. Problems. Sometimes they come here and there. Sometimes they come in bunches, but guess what? They're going to come. But it doesn't matter. Unexpected expenses, competitors, somebody lied on you. Who knows, man? Who knows? Your number one selling product got gated on Amazon. Your number one selling product got zeroed on eBay. Your number one sourcing watering hole done dried up. You don't want to drive a couple extra miles to get inventory. You don't want to spend a few extra $1,000s to get inventory. You don't want to spend a few extra hours a listing. You don't want to spend a few extra hours listening to some audiobooks and reading, watching something positive. You don't want to get up a couple hours early, go stay up a couple hours late. But it's eBay, right? It's Amazon, right? It's these platforms. It's these customers, of course. You know it's the customers because these customers suck. So it got to be their fault. Got to adopt a mindset of resilience. It's the only way you're going to weather the storms. It's the only way you're going to make it through. Remember, race ain't to the swift, but to those who endure. Those who endure. And that leads us to our final principle, okay, that we have gleaned from this death ground strategy. All right. And that's laser-like focus and execution. You can't focus like a laser and execute the way that you need to if you're distracted. Sometimes you got to turn down the noise, turn off the noise. And by noise, I mean sometimes it's friends, family, a job, these YouTube videos, whatever it is that's stopping you, okay? On death ground strategy, there's no room for distractions. There's no room for indecisiveness. There's no room for second guessing. There's only one option, one course of action. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. But that's just the beginning, because once you make up your mind, then you have to account for everything that comes your way. Everything. That's why it requires laser-like focus and precise execution. Your systems have to be right. You can't just be dilly-dallying, taking stuff, throwing it in the corner over here, doing this or that. Now you're getting dings on your account because you can't find items. You got to cancel orders. You ain't focused. You ain't focused. Look, resellers with this type of mindset, for those of you who know, because some of y'all out there already know, they're just much more likely to have their priorities all in order, right? They're much more likely to prioritize important tasks first. You know, a lot of people think that multitasking is a good thing, but it's not really. All right, you have to have a priority list, an order of priorities for the tasks that need to be completed. And you work through that list from the most important to the least. And you don't stop to start doing something that's on the least end of the list while you're still working on the most important. One of the main things that used to happen to me when I worked in the restaurants in the beginning stages of being a GM is I used to think, number one, that I had to do everything. And then number two, I used to think that that multitasking was a good thing, and I would try to do everything a little bit. And so it always kept me feeling like I was behind. And yeah, man, I couldn't even tell you how stressed out I used to be. And then I finally learned that that's not how to do it. Right. And so I used to prioritize tasks. I would delegate things that I just had to learn how, if this wasn't at the high end of my priority list and it could be delegated, give it to somebody else and follow up with them. Sometimes we just try to do too much, y'all. We got to know when to delegate things, when to let other people take care of things. And we just got to have a list of priorities. What's most important, what needs to be done. And if something's not up there, you'll get to it when you get to it. You know, one of the things I started doing too when I'm working is I run a timer. And typically it's about an hour. Sometimes it's more, sometimes less, depends on my task. So let's say I set my timer for an hour. It's right on my computer, my laptop. I'll set the timer for an hour. Okay. During that hour, I am not allowed to stop to do any other task. And I know you might sound easy. I don't know. I'm a little ADHD, man. It don't take much for me to be in the middle of something, and then a thought will pop into my head about something else, and I'll stop and go do that. And then sometimes I'll catch myself, sometimes I won't, but I'm always distracted. I do that task. When that timer goes off and the bill goes off, I take a 5 minute break, maybe a 10 minute break, usually no more than 10. After that, I set the timer again and I go to my next task because I got a task list. And that's how I kind of work through my day. That's how I work through my day. Every once in a while, you'll have something pop up that's important and you got to address right then, but that's not every day. All right. And so the most important thing for you as a reseller is to focus on things that generate revenue. If there's something that's not generating revenue, that's not the most important thing. And so don't spend a lot of time doing it. Uh, Now, there's something that you can delegate. If you have the money to hire somebody to do, then by all means do that. Like I hire somebody to sort. Okay, why? Because it's not sorting's not generating me any revenue, and it ties up a lot of my time. And so because I'm at the point where I can pay somebody to do it, that's what I do. Now, if you're not doing that much volume and you do have time and you can do everything yourself, that's fine too. I'm not saying that you have to have somebody else do it, but still, you do need a priority list and systems. You have to have systems in place. Don't just like don't wing it, y'all. Don't wing it. Don't wing it. I don't care if you got one shelf set up. That shelf should be organized and everything should have a place. This is one of the things I learned in restaurants too. One of my district managers used to always tell me, everything has to have a place. You have to know where everything is at. Because a lot of times by the time I became the GM, the previous GM, it was a mess. Things was all over the place, right? You couldn't find nothing. It was crazy. And so he would tell me everything needs a place. And that's how I learned, like, everything has to have a place. It's easier to find. It's easier when I'm doing inventory. It just makes things stress levels go down. When you ain't looking for stuff and you can't find it and stress goes down. Now you can think more clearly. There is so much stress that we cause ourselves because we're not organized, because our minds are all over the place, our lives are messy, and just things. And then we blame other stuff for the stress. Oh, can you believe this person this that, and can you believe eBay this, and can you believe that, and can you believe whatever it is, right? The list can go on and on. When the real issue is that you're not focused, you're not organized, you don't have a system in place, you're not trying to get more efficient, you're all over the place. All over the place. Because you're distracted. And so the more you increase your focus, the more you cut out the things that are not important. Stop trying to add stuff. Think about it this way. For everything that you add 3 more problems. Now that could be plus 2 or 8 or minus, right? Plus or minus, but every time you add something, you add more problems. And every time you take away something, you take away problems. So just think of that. When you're about to add something, maybe you're about to add something to your systems, or maybe you're about to, whatever it is you're going to add, ask yourself what the problems that may come with it, and is it even worth it? And then if it is worth it, how can you mitigate those issues? How can you mitigate those problems? What systems can you have in place to make it a smooth transition? I think, see, a lot of us just don't think that far ahead, man. We just hear something, we see something, and we go, and you hit a wall. You hit the wall again. And then you hit it again. And you keep doing the same thing. Keep doing the same thing. But you wonder why you can't get ahead. You wonder why you're stuck in the same place. You wonder why, or you blame any and everything for you not having the success that you think you should have. But the problem really is not those things. The problem is you. You're not focusing, you're distracted. You're not organized. You're not efficient enough. You're not disciplined enough. You ain't committed enough. You ain't resilient enough. You're not persistent enough. All right, so look, those are the 5 things, y'all, right there. Remember this. Deaf ground strategy, right? Creating a sense of urgency. Taking away options that typically will hold you back from getting where you want to get. Getting out of your comfort zone. This is what it boils down to. Again, I'm not saying do something crazy and foolish, but what I am saying is cut out those things that typically have been holding you back that you've been using as a crutch. If it's a mental thing, it's something that maybe you're lazy, man. You could be lazy, right? You could just be lazy. You don't want to put the work in. You want to sit in the shade. Again, like I said, you want to just sit there under the shade. You don't want to get sweaty. You don't want your shirt to get dirty. You don't want no dirt up under your nails and all that. You know what I mean? While other people out here, they don't care about none of that. They don't care about none of that. And they passing you up. They lapping you. All right? Take that. Got to get rid of that stuff. Only option is success. All right? So number one, commitment to success. You got to have a commitment to success. What does that commitment look like? It's up to you to decide. Number two, adaptability and resourcefulness. If your ability to adapt is not that good, then you got to work on that. You got to be resourceful. Stop trying to add extra stuff and thinking that this will make you successful. Buying this course will make you successful. Getting this bolo list will make you successful. If only. Look at what you got right now and figure out a way to make it happen. Start right here, right now with what you got and go from there. Figure out a way to make it work. All right. Number three, risk management. How risk averse are you? Are you willing to take a chance? And how can you mitigate the risk from the chances that you take? Stop using the excuse that, oh, Amazon is this or this platform is that or the customers and the returns. Stop using those as excuses. Stop. Figure out a way to deal with the risk and to overcome those things. That's going to be pervasive throughout your whole life, not just reselling. There's going to be risk in any and everything, man. Take a chance. You never know what might happen. Guess what? You just might succeed. Number four, persistence and resilience. And I throw another aspect in there, consistency. You have to be willing to be persistent and resilient. It's not going to be sales up 50% every day, y'all. It's not going to be 100 sales every day, y'all. It's not going to be no returns ever every day, y'all. It's not going to be no negative feedback ever. It's not. I can promise you it won't. You're going to get negative feedback. Some of it be deserved, some of it won't be. You're going to get returns. And guess what? Some of those returns are going to be scams. Yep. And guess what? Some of those scams, the platforms are not going to compensate you for. It's all part of it. Is that going to stop you? Are you really going to take time out of your day to validate that by complaining? To give that life? Are you going to really breathe life into that by complaining and voicing that on social media? Making videos about it? You got to take time to put your fingers on the keyboard and type about it in a group or in the comments? You're really about to put that type of time and effort into that, or are you just going to go forward? Come on, man. What we doing out here in these reselling streets, y'all? What we doing out here, huh? Persistent and resilient. That means I don't even care about none of that. Okay? I take it with a grain of salt. It happened. I move forward. Refund. All right. I got a rock back instead of the $150 shoes. Yeah, I'm gonna go through the motions and try to get the platform to compensate me. And if not, I keep it moving. Consistency. I keep it moving. I ain't about to spend minutes, seconds, or nothing typing this out in some Facebook group. Look what this seller did. And I'm not saying this in the sense of us sharing experiences with sellers or negative. I'm not saying it in that sense. Let me say that too. Nothing wrong with sharing bad or negative experiences with the community. There's nothing wrong with that. But you guys know what I mean. I thought I should just put that little disclaimer in there. Okay. And then finally, just laser focused execution, man. You have to be laser focused and you got to be able to execute. But you can't do that if you're distracted. You can't do that if you're messy. You can't do that if you don't have systems in place. Okay? You can't do that if you don't have your priorities in order. You can't do that if you don't have an agenda. What is important to you? What is important to you? Is reselling important? Is being successful at reselling important? Or is it more important to gobble up the gossipy content in the reselling community? Is it more important to be out here in these reselling Facebook streets, commenting on this post and that post, or crying about this and that thing that happened? You gotta focus, man. You gotta focus. How focused are you is the question. Let me ask you, how focused are you? That's what I want to know. Tell me in the comments below, how focused are you? Can you get more focused? How persistent are you? Some of y'all are very easily deterred. Very easily deterred. It only takes a little bit of pressure to push you back. It only takes a little bit of pressure to stop you in your tracks. Just a little bit, not even a lot. Life ain't even pushing on you that hard for real. These reseller platform problems ain't even really pushing on you that hard. It's like a hurdle, man. You can just jump over it, but nah. Some of y'all make it even more than that. Y'all make something that's a hurdle you can jump over. Y'all turn it into one of those walls or those obstacle courses you gotta try to climb up and all that. Can't get up there. There's oil on there. You keep sliding back down. They got oil on the rope. Y'all turn it into something that it never was meant to be. It was never meant to be that. That's what you make it into. And guess what? You create your own mountain and then complain about having to climb it. You create your own mountain and then complain about having to climb it. Deaf ground strategy, man. What's your mindset like? What is your mindset like? I ain't even. This might sound like too much, but it ain't too much. You know why? Because all of this translates into every other aspect of your life. If you easily deterred here, there's other things you easily deterred in. If you're easily swayed here, there's other things you'll be easily swayed. If you're easily agitated, if it's easy to stop you from something that you said you was going to do, if it's easy to stop you from doing it, when it comes to reselling, there's other things in life that, look, I'm just trying to say, like, not only do I want you to be a good reseller, I want you to be a good person, a better person. That's what this is all about, right? Trying to get the best out of yourself. Because self-improvement really, really is the key to success in reselling and anything else. Self-improvement, whether it's reading book, like you got to understand yourself and what your shortcomings are and address those things so that you can get better at the things you need to get better at, and so that you can realize what you're good at and you can even go even further with those things, But some of us don't put that much thought because we always distracted with other stuff, you know what I mean? But listen, that's all I got for y'all today, man. Do me a favor. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Let me know what you think you can work on, okay? Is it the commitment? Maybe you just ain't been committed, you know what I'm saying? It's like you've been taking it with like blase. Is it your ability to be adaptable, resourceful, flexible to the issues and the things that happen? Maybe you find yourself getting caught up in the complaint crowd, in the problem. I got this problem, that problem crowd. Maybe it's the risk management. Maybe you've been finding yourself with excuses for not expanding beyond your usual platform because you've been saying, there's this problem and that problem. And so you've been allowing excuses to keep you from, potential opportunities. Maybe you struggle in that persistence and resilience department. Maybe, just maybe, this is a theme throughout your life. And when the going get tough, you don't get going. Actually, you get gone. That's something that's a you thing you got to work on. And then finally, maybe you just ain't focused enough. Maybe you got too many distractions. Maybe you need to take a step back, deal with the distractions first, and then come back to this. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes in life, we just got a lot going on, and it's like running over into other things. And so we Things that we would usually be able to handle and deal with is harder to deal with because we have this overflow from other problems. And so maybe you got to take a step back, deal with something else within yourself, then come back and focus. But whatever it is, look, guys, there's an answer. People's doing this every day. People's making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, man. Don't get so short-sighted and myopic about what reselling is and the ways that you can succeed in it. But also, don't think it's going to be easy. Go into this knowing that there's going to be some challenges, but having the courage to say, man, listen, whatever it is, I'm going to overcome it, and I'm only going to surround myself with like-minded people. All right? That's all I got for y'all today. Do me a favor. If this helped you out in any way, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you're notified next time I upload another video. And I'll see you on the next one.